Learning Perek Yud Halacha Dalet. Amar Chachamim. The Chachamim Rishonim told us. Shematei Marini Lo Mitzvah B'Shul She'Yeh Osher B'Shul Eshek Rav B'Shul She'Kabel Schar. Now, in this halacha, if we look down below in the Peirush, we find the Rambam is going to explain to us why a person should learn Torah, and there's no issa to keep a mitzvah to receive reward, even though that's not the most optimal way of doing it. And what does it mean? L'man yitav loch, it should be for your goodness, and a person should never say, well, I did a mitzvah and I didn't get reward, or if I don't get reward, I don't want to do the mitzvah. And what does it mean when it says a person should do something without the intent to receive reward? Again, to begin Dalet, the Rambam says, always the black words, the dark, bold words are the Rambam himself. The Chachamim Rishonim said, Shema Toima, lest you say, Hareini lo mitzvah b'shul she'yeh oshia, nor that I become rich, b'shul she'yikor Rebbe, I'll be called a rabbi, b'shul she'kabel schar b'olam haba, so I'll receive reward in the world to come, Talmud loima, therefore it says, La'avos Hashem, one should love Hashem. Everything that you do should only be from love. We find this in the Durham. Tanya, we learned, a person should not say, I will study so that people will call me a Chocham. Eshna, I will review it and become proficient in it, so they'll call me a Rebbe. Ashanim, and I will continuously study, so people will accord me honor when I sit in the yeshiva. The Rambam adds, in order to become rich, because we find many of the great men of Israel in their old age are accorded wealth as well. These are all things that apply to this world. We learned in Halacha Aleph that a person should not say, I'm doing this mitzvah to receive the blessing which is found in the Torah and use them in this world, and so that I will also have the world to come. But here he's going to tell us even more so, specifically what his meaning is. Furthermore, the Chacham said in Avodah Zorah, that the righteous want to do his mitzvahs. Not in the reward of the mitzvah, but rather in the doing of the actual mitzvah. Rashi explains he serves his creator with the love of Hashem, and from the love of the commandments of the creator's mouth, and not to receive reward. And so the great wise men were seen by their understanding students and those who comprehended them in this concept. That one should not be like a servant or who serves his master in order to receive reward, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the creator, and therefore it's roy lishamshoy. It's correct to serve him. Serve him out of love. As we find in Ovis Aleph Gimel, in the Gemara Avodah Zorah, explains the mitzvosov, not schar mitzvosov, just like the Rambam uses it here. Rashi explains that this is the way the great men were found in the eyes of their students, that they did it not for the purpose of reward. Your heart should always be with the Creator, that even if Chas v'sholom, we don't receive reward, I love my Creator and want His mitzvahs. Ein isur l'kayim mitzvahs al manas l'kavod pras. There's no isur if somebody isn't able to achieve the level of saying, well, I can do it out of love. The Bostoner Rebbe explains, Ivdoi me'ahavo, pras, when it says Shalei Amanas Lekabel pras, not to receive a piece of bread, is what a person gives to someone who works for him, and he doesn't have to do so. It's here, like here the word pras is also considered in the vernacular in Ivrit as a prize, like a person gives to his son or his to wife or to a favorite slave because of what the person has done for him. That even for this itself, one should not serve Hashem, only out of love. Thus, his intent is only reward. Therefore, the Rambam is very careful that we should not be like Avodim who serve the master to receive goodness. He doesn't mention schar, he doesn't mention reward. Halacha Aleph, he said, a person should not say, I am going to do the mitzvahs of learning Torah and learn its wisdom to receive its brachos. And there he tells you how one should do so. That the Chacham said you should do it out of love. The Rambam doesn't say that one should not do it if he doesn't have that love. He's just emphasizing that this is a level which is a greatness of the servants of Hashem. And so the Tosfos Yontif explains the Mishnah that this is what the Chacham warned. It should be out of love, because that's the main purpose. But if he does it for love, it doesn't mean that it's forbidden. If he does it for reward, it doesn't mean it's forbidden. Still, he's serving Hashem. And that's what we sometimes have to say to ourselves. Okay, I haven't achieved that level, but I'll do it out of mitzvah. And therefore, the Torah told us reward and punishment in order to assist us to gain the minimal that we can attain, and from there we can always grow. If he adds further, if it's forbidden to serve Hashem to receive reward, or we should be careful not to be punished, what do we need the Torah telling us reward and punishment? Just that. We'll turn the page. If a person will serve only to receive reward or not to be punished, he's not in a level, he's not doing something, one then is not in the level of serving out of love. And the Tana just wanted to tell us that we should strive to achieve a greater level of service. But he doesn't say that one should not hope for reward. As it says in Baba, we find even someone who gives tzedakah, and he gives it only because his loyalenu, one of his family members, is sick. He says, on condition that my son shall live, or I'll have a portion of the world to come. This is a tzaddik gomer. It's mutter l'aved Hashem to do so. He's a tzaddik gomer, even though he's doing it for a purpose. And the Gemara goes on to add that even though Chas v'Sholom, sometimes his prayers are not answered the way he would like them to, and the relative dies, Rachmana litzlan, still he gives the tzedakah anyway. The Tosfos Yontif explains that the Tana in our Mishnah, who says we should serve Hashem, didn't mean to say that one should not aspire for reward, but rather that the correct level, a person should serve Hashem is out of love. And he continues, Ani Omer, I add, from his very words, you see that. Because you don't have to bring from other places that this is the intent of the Mishnah, but rather, Tanan said, he said it in a way that person shouldn't think that he says, the other type of service is not worth anything. Since he says, Al tiyu ka'avodim, he says you should not be like slaves. He doesn't say, do not be like those who serve to receive reward. And he tells you that you can be like a slave. You should be a slave anyway, even if it's for payment, but you shouldn't do it. The preferable way is not to do it on a higher level. I am a servant of Hashem in any case. Just that some of us do it with a lesser level of love and others in a greater level. Anyone who serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called avodim, but you shouldn't be like them totally. You should do the activity in the same fervor as if you were getting reward, but you shouldn't do it because of the reward, and this is a way we can understand what the Rambam is saying here. The Teiz Yontiv also brings proof from the Maharal that he asks, why do they have to answer a state, be like those who serve the master not to receive pras? It says al tiyu. He explains, al tiyu, I would think that it's also la'avod amanas legal pras. That's not true, because even if it's a tzaddik gomor, it's an Indian to serve Hashem, but it comes rather to the point that is a higher level, the one who serves out of love, and therefore it says, be like ka'avodim. And the intent is not to forbid a person from serving for wages. Just if you do it without that reason, it's a greater level. It says Lamani Tavloch. The pasuk in the Torah says you should serve Hashem so that He will do goodness for you. Mashor cites from the Avarmanel, and who asks, it says in the pasuk, you should, so that you'll have long life and receive goodness. It would seem that that's why you should do Torah. How can the Rambam say that that a person should not strive for that when in the pasuk it says one should? We'll turn the page, and he explains the question of the Abarmanel that it doesn't mean Laman the person should do mitzvahs that Hashem should give Marichus Yom Tovim, but rather that the outcome of doing the mitzvahs is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give him long life. But the person has to serve his Creator out of love, and this is proof. He cites this from the Mishnah. We should be like avodim who serve the master not to receive reward. So the question is there a servant that doesn't receive a reward from his master? Even the lowest of servants receives sustenance, room and board, but rather we should be like a servant, a Jewish servant, that received his reward before he began working for the master. In other words, he was sold into slavery and he's received all that he's going to receive. When he continues to work, he does it not to get more money, but in essence he can hope for it. But he's doing it because this is his task, and that Evid Knani, he says, even Evid Knani in a sense, doesn't do it out of wanting to gain more, because what he's doing is what he's gaining. Everything that Evid Knani receives will be his master's anyway, and even the food that his master gives him is not his. Like we find in Gittin, that's according to the opinion that a master can force his a slave who's not Jewish to work for him and not give him food, and he has to give him time to be able to ask for charity from others. We find that even the food itself is a payment. He gives him payment or other payments when he does and things that cause him to have satisfaction. But everything belongs to his masters. So too, every Jewish person has to serve as Hashem, not to receive reward, and he should be like an Eved Ivri who already has received everything. Life itself is the greatest reward. The ability to have a Jewish neshama and serve Hashem is the greatest reward. But you should do it for the reward that is close to Hashem, because everything is Hashem's. The entire world and everything within it. And someone who serves Hashem me'ahava, understands that Bechazde HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a person his sustenance and everything that the goals of Torah are, such as long life, and long life can mean the ability to utilize all of our days. A person should not have, the Rambam says, regret on mitzvahs that he did it if he won't receive reward. Today's Yom Tov cites Tosus and Rosh Hashanah that the Mishnah in Ova says you should not have reward. It seems to disagree with the Brisa, which says that if he gives tzedakah for my son, he should live. He's a tzaddik gomer. So you see, reward is not, that doesn't take away from the aspect of being a full tzaddik. It explains that in Ovis it's talking about by a goy who will only give it on condition that he wants to have his son live, and therefore afterwards he regrets that he gave the tzedakah. And that's what it means, al tiyu ka'avodim. Do not be like those who are not Jewish, but a Jew will want it anyway to do it. And Dais Yontiv understands that the town is talking to a goy. How could it be that we wrote a Mishnah for a goy? What does this mean? And about the Nura explains, it says, Hu Yoima. He would say this in sort of in a statement saying, can it be by for goyim? How can he explain that? And the Tais Yantiv therefore says, and my mind became settled at this concept when I saw the words of Psochim. He's talking that the goy, if you're doing it the same way as a goy, that if you won't get the good, then you will regret it. That's what you're not supposed to do. And even a Jew, the lowest level of a Jew should not be in such a situation. But a Jew, when he gives tzedakah, he's in tzaddik gomer because he will not regret. And that's why he explains the Gemara Bava Basra and Rosh Hashanah that the nations of the world, when they don't receive what they expect from Hashem, then they regret that they did it. What does it mean, Amanah Shalei Lekabel Pras? Today's Yontiv questions the Rambam. You should be like those who don't receive reward. Because, at all. Because his girsa, his text in the office was Amanah Shalei Lekabel Pras, on condition not to receive reward. So how can you tell a person, that person should say, I'm not going to receive reward, that if I receive a reward, I won't do it? It brings to the Medrash Shmuel that explains the Yesa as follows. We'll turn the page. Meaning that even that he doesn't want to receive reward, he knows that he's going to receive reward. And the one who serves not to receive reward has a greater love for doing the item. And not like someone who, without being paid, does not want to serve Hashem. So Yonah says he rectified the comprehension, but not the language. But according to Medrash Shmuel, Ram adds, Ivdoi me'ahava, serve him out of love. That's why the Ram adds it. That it doesn't mean without reward. It means have reward. There is a reward. You acknowledge there's a reward, but that's not the primary purpose of why you're doing it. One can also add, and says at the end, and may the fear of heaven be upon you. That you should do it at the level of the ovos. That even though Avraham Avinu was promised children, he was afraid his sin might cause it to be overruled. So too by Yitzchak v'Yaakov. The Zionah says, this is the inheritance we have from our forefathers, Avdei Hashem, the servants of Hashem, who serve out of love, and that there should be nothing else in their minds, not the question of reward. Now, The last words of the Rambam says this was the way the Gedolei Chacham were found to those who comprehended them, their disciples. As the Kesef Mishnah explains, since we from this statement, what happened was we know there were the Karaites. At one time they were called the Tzdoikim and the Baisusim, who were Talmidim, who heard this and heard the statement, serve Hashem without reward, and they couldn't comprehend it. And especially if they learned it, that it meant not for reward at all, and they therefore decided not to serve Hashem at all. The Antigonus Ish Sukkoi had two Talmidim. One was Sodek and one was Baisus. When they heard what he said, one said to the other, our teacher's telling us that person will not have anything out of it. There's no reward, there's no Olam Haba, there's no purpose. And without reward or being saved from punishment, because they didn't understand what Antigonus Ish Sukkoi meant, to serve as Hashem with a Hava. And one of them, and when you have two disciples who go off astray, each one strengthens the other, and they went out and they left Torah. They didn't want to leave Torah, because we find when you're in a social grouping, you don't want to leave it. So usually you try to convert others by showing that what other people are saying is wrong. And the Chacham called, therefore, this group that went out and they tried to justify themselves by saying they read the Torah literally so, as Stoikim by Susim. And the Rambam explains that they did not believe in Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral tradition. And in fact, in Egypt, in the time of the Rambam, there were many that were called Kra'im, the Karaites. But they too are based on what happened by Tzodok or by Sus. And they're called Karoim. Why? Because they want to say the Torah is the only actual truth, not the oral tradition. But obviously there are many questions you could ask about this. We wouldn't know Tefillin from without Torah Shabbat Peh, many other things. Therefore, the Rambam emphasizes that the great Chachomim commanded this to who? To those of this disciples who comprehended this a higher level of service to Hashem. But as we learned earlier, that even a person who serves Hashem without desire to receive reward is called a tzaddik gomer.